Hey, I didn't realize this whole time I've been on mute. I hope you all can hear me. We're going to have a conversation for a while on black bodies not being for sale and unpacking the commodification of blackness. So let's do this. Let me figure out how to get to the YouTube. We've just reconnected some of our accounts because we were streaming on the wrong account. And want to make sure you guys have the right YouTube account in case you want to watch the replay. And also, there is a PDF guide that goes with this with some reflection for you all because, I always want to give you a resource to go with what we have. So let us switch this out and just give me a second. Thank you all for tuning in today. Thank you all for hanging out. It's always good when you can hang out with members of your collective. And so, we have some serious updates to do here on YouTube. And we'll do that. So I'm just going to share. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. I appreciate your support. Um, and we're just going to go ahead and get this updated. It's really interesting, you all. So I have been, thank you for watching, those of you on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I have been sitting and quietly for about 15 days. Our community actually is on a social media detox. So every quarter for about 7 days, sometimes 30 days, our community does a social media detox, and they just don't use social media, but we work as community. I got started a little bit earlier because I think one of the things that's important in this work that we do is really trying to think about the ways that digital media impacts our mental health. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month, so it just makes sense, right? And so for the first 7 days of the month, we are encouraging our members to do this detox. And so it's daily prompts, there is daily recordings. It's really cool. And then they get together, I believe this evening, to check in on like what's it like to not be on social media, what's it like to experience the withdrawals, because I don't think we realize how this technology can be like an addiction, because it's almost like a slot machine. You're just kind of scrolling, right? Like you're scrolling on your slot machine and like you're like, oh, that feels good. Oh, that feels bad. You're giving your energy. It's like an energy exchange. And I don't think a lot of people understand that you are literally exchanging your energy on social media. And every part of your body is a gateway. So what you take in with your ears and what you take in with your eyes and what you take in period is a gateway. And what you allow in is actually what your body reacts to, which is why I personally don't watch the news and other tools that I do to take care of myself and my body. Everything that's happening in the world is just a repeat of history as well. And I think a lot of people have not wrestled with history on their personal journey, which is why many of you struggle to stay engaged, because you think that it is, who knows what you think it is. So, don't want to make assumptions, but I want to get to it real quick because I have a lot of notes. And I also even made a journal reflection workbook to give you all some reflection prompts to actually go deeper. So it's one thing for me to come on these streets and give y'all like some pointers or let y'all see like what's happening. And it's another thing when you have a different resource that's not me to help you go deeper on this topic. So here's what I've noticed in the last 15 days, maybe even I would say 90 days. So 90 days ago, we launched our community care fundraiser for Black liberation and others. So it wasn't just Black liberation, it was Black liberation centered, but also supporting other people. And the reaction to this account wanting to support Black folk, Black liberation, Black families who are part of the Altadena fire, white bodies, it's like because we center Black liberation, there has been an uproar. So also within that 90-day period, you also have me saying being vulnerable, like, hey, I'm requesting support. I show up on these platforms. We got to think about how we look at social media, and we have to think about how we look at social media as it pertains to the commodification of Black bodies. Because from a digital marketing perspective or from a marketing perspective, you are taught as a business owner or entrepreneur, give a free resource, give a free value. But one of the things that we don't think about is you have a group of people whose bodies have been used as capital since enslavement and who are viewed as capital, who are not respected to be paid. And you all aren't critically thinking, oh, this person's on here with this lived experience, because people don't value lived experience. Many of you only value people with degrees. And I appreciate everyone who had the opportunity to go get their 4 year degree, their master's degree, and their PhD. But the fact that many of you only give credit to people that have degrees that are Black or Indigenous, and you struggle to recognize life experience as a guide and life experience as a teacher, it's a reflection of how you don't love yourself. Because if you appreciated life experience, if you appreciated your own journey, you would not be in the constant pursuit of a social justice industrial complex that is rooted in demanding others to shift and change and move into codependency instead of interdependence. That is why I say that the work is individual and collective. It is not just collective. If we focus just on collective, we are building systems of codependency. And that is what the system of the oppression is. It is a system ran by narcissists that all of us are codependent on the system. And when we all move outside of the system, we gaslight, shame, humiliate. Our collective and individual traumas get activated, and we don't know what to do with it. No one in social justice work is embodied. The ones who are embodied understand that this is a somatic practice. This is not just learning big words to have a conversation. It is deeper than a conversation, because if you are not paying attention to history, in the 1960s, there were conversations happening. And for Dr. Martin Luther King to say, I fear I am leading my people into a burning house, and be 2 generations away from him saying that, this is a burning house. You all don't like Black people. When people speak for Black liberation and pro Black solidarity, you run, and you rather go work with racially ambiguous, mixed race, or other folks because you are afraid of Black people. The only time that Black people are of value to you is when you can consume the labor for free, which is rooted in enslavement, because Black bodies have always been viewed as capital. And most Black women in my generation are reclaiming our own relationship, one, to our body, and two, to the ways that you view us. Because here's the thing, my body is not for sale. My intellectualism is not for sale. My creativity is not for sale. If I choose to offer my services as a business owner, if I choose to show up on social media, it has value. However, you need to think about your relationship that value and Black people come at no cost. On the other hand, when we speak up as Black people, you then come in comments and you start talking about white led organizations. Let me tell you something about the nonprofit industrial complex and white social justice organizations. If you go to their websites and you look at their board of directors, and their board of directors are all white, or all white with a few BIPOC, the word you all like to use is BIPOC because you don't like to say Black or Indigenous. You like to say BIPOC because you don't want to say Black people, or Blackness. You run away from those words. You will continue to just go opt into something that doesn't center Black liberation and Black people. But the thing that you all don't understand in this work is that until Black people are free, until the Black body and Black people are liberated, we will all continue to live in a system of oppression. And that should make all of you uncomfortable. Do you know why? Because it no longer means that you can center whiteness and white supremacy. That's only one part of the interlocking system of oppression. It is imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist, ableist, white feminist, patriarchy, and anti Blackness. And the thing about it is, you will say every other piece of word salad, because it's all word salad, except for Black and Blackness. Because we could just keep it real. We're all socialized, including myself, as a woman born on the stolen lands of America. As an American, I was socialized when I went into white community to hate myself. And you've been socialized to see Black bodies as a commodity and to hate us. That is why you do not name anti-Blackness. Keena Reed talks about this all the time when she talks about divesting from whiteness. She's telling you to divest from whiteness with intention. This is why you can get mad at Black women for not saying free Palestine, but free Congo and Sudan and Tigray and Myanmar and all countries where it's centered in Black liberation. You're mad at us for not saying free Palestine, but you're not talking about the Black genocide in America. You're mad at us for not saying free Palestine, but you're not talking about the reading scores of Black children in our urban cities. You're talking about free Palestine, but you're not talking about the ways in which there are food deserts in most African American communities here in America. You will talk about free everyone else around the world except freeing the Black body here on the stolen land. Why is that? You're too busy centering whiteness, trying to sound good and trying to look good to make yourself palatable to other white people. And I think it comes a point where we have to recognize that if we only keep talking about the things that we're comfortable about, if we're not going to look at history as a teacher, if we're not going to look at anthropology, sociology, psychology, if we're not going to look at all the ways in which the Black body has been viewed throughout history, we are only going to continue to center the palatability and the respect of whiteness. It's all respectability politics. That's what it is. And at some point on the journey, you have to learn how to get uncomfortable with Black people. You want liberation, but you have no Black friends. You want liberation, but you won't sit under Black people. And when Black people make you uncomfortable, instead of learning how to be direct and compassionate with your communication, you will go run because it makes you uncomfortable. Imagine that you're so uncomfortable that you run away. That discomfort that you feel when Black folk, when we name our truth, that small moment of, ooh, to go find relief. Imagine feeling like that every day of your body, every day of your life in your body. My birthday was yesterday. I just turned 43. So imagine what it feels like to be a Black woman born in the 1980s during the crack epidemic, the destruction of the Black family, move into a white culture where you were told you were fat, Black, and ugly, then to assimilate and cause harm to yourself and other Black people to try to fit in with a culture of people that really hate you. This is the conversation that you all need to lean into, not just talking about some DEI and social justice and anti-Blackness and bias, not anti-Blackness, bias and cultural appropriation. Half of what exists today in the American beauty industry is Black cultural appropriation. Because growing up as a Black woman in the suburbs, my full lips and wide hips were not attractive. And now we have white women who don't like to age going to get lip fillers, nose reconstruction surgery, hip reconstruction surgery, and BBLs, all based on Black women. Y'all weren't doing the surgery in like the 90s, right? When the frail, thin white model was the norm. But now it's 2025 and I'm looking like that is a horrible BBL. You could have just did some squats and drunk some protein smoothies and you would have been all right. But again, it's okay to commodify Black features, Black people, and not consider giving credit where credit is due. And this is what we're shifting here on Check Your Privilege. Oh yeah, let's talk about getting the tan. Thank you. And you'll get a tan to get your skin darker. So you'll do all of these things to make yourself as a white woman look younger, feel better, be more attractive. But it all comes from the Black body, the commodification of the Black body. But we don't talk about this. We only want to talk about what feels good. It feels good to say, as a white woman on an anti-racism journey, as a white woman, as a white person, as a white this, it's starting to sound like AI. You're starting to sound like artificial intelligence. Now, if you were to say, as Jessica on a liberation journey, I'm working on my relationship by decentering whiteness and navigating pro-Black solidarity and supporting the liberation of Black and people and Indigenous sovereignty, that's a different conversation. But in this line of work, we don't want to center those who want to be centered. We want to center what's palatable, what's comfortable, and what keeps the conversations going. I remember the first time I heard Malcolm X say, "Who taught you to hate yourself?" And that was at the height where I used to wear wigs all the time. And the way it hit me in that moment was like, yeah, why am I wearing all these wigs? Why am I doing this to myself? Who am I trying to fit into? Because the reality is that I'm not for everybody and everybody is not for me. And as long as I recognize that as a facilitator of liberation, not anti-racism, a facilitator of liberation, as long as I recognize that, I'm okay with that. I think the problem is that none of us know what it means to love ourselves. So we'll project ideologies onto other people of what love looks like, what the language of liberation sounds like. We don't focus on how we build true solidarity and community. We're focused on how we perform. And so one of the things I want to talk about when we're talking about the Black body, we have to think about the labor economy that was built on Black bodies. Today's labor economy was built on Black bodies. And there's an elder in my life who says, I don't think any of us realize in the United States that we're all still enslaved. Because after the abolishment of enslavement, the exploitation of Black labor didn't end, it evolved, especially in the South. Like the convict leasing system, we now call it the prison industrial complex. Black people were criminalized for things like loitering, so like hanging out on the corner. And then prisons would lease them to private benefits, businesses like the steel companies, the railroads, the mines. And it's often worse than enslavement. And this is what has the Black body being forced into labor and laid the groundwork of the prison industrial complex. We always have to think about the ways in which history informs where we are today. This is why I keep telling you all, none of this is new. And then we'll have to look at the sharecropping and Jim Crow. So then there were freed Black families that were locked into unfair contracts that kept them economically dependent and in debt. And what that, like modern day sharecropping to me, are payday loans. Have you seen how many payday loans are in urban communities? And do you know that payday loans are contracts that keep people economically dependent on the system and in debt? So I am a Black woman who's had to do that in my life at one point. You go get a payday loan to help pay a bill, and then you're paying it off, but then you got to borrow some money. You got to keep borrowing from the system. So it keeps you on this cycle of freaking economic dependency and debt with these payday loans. When I tell you that history is not history is the teacher, and it gives us everything that we need to know how to thrive and not just survive, it's here. And then also, if we go back to sharecropping and Jim Crow, we have landholders who control the housing and income and access to justice. And so this whole system has just really been built on enslaved Black bodies. And right now we see we are underpaid, especially as essential workers, healthcare aides, farm workers, the service industry, right? Then you have the exploitation of athleticism. So you have the sports industry profits off of black bodies, the entertainment industry's profit of Black bodies, and sometimes there's no long-term security. And then you have the social, not the social justice industrial complex, and then you have the prison industrial complex that profits off of mass incarceration. Like I was just watching a video yesterday, and I'm going to find the source so that I can put it into a resource document. But like the say like the Ronald Reagan what was it, not DARE program, or the Say No to Drugs program, was really built to like really keep this prison complex going. That was the basis of putting Black bodies in jail. And that's what I love about Bell Hooks. I'm gonna give y'all a quote. I wonder if I can post it. This is by Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks says that the body as a site of oppression and resistance must be reclaimed, and Black folks must name and challenge the commodification of our flesh. That is so true. And that is what part of this live stream is doing, is me naming. It is me naming the reclamation and the challenge of the commodification of my flesh. You all are really okay with like, oh, don't go to this account, go join Surge. Well, if you can go join Surge, why not become a member of our community? Because you don't want that. White bodies do not want to relate. I'm lucky to have the white bodies that we have in our community that do want to do that, that are building real friendships and relationships that will help each other out, no questions asked. We have that in our community because we practice it, and it's dirty and it's messy and it's complicated. And I'm realizing that a lot of white bodies don't like to do what's dirty, messy, and complicated. You want to throw money at a problem and get a quick fix. Yes, Jess, you want to be told what to do instead of trusting your own body's wisdom of what to do. Many of you know what to do, but it's easier to throw money at a problem than it is to actually face the problem and do something about it. It's easier to throw money at a problem than it is to really do something about it. And many of you just, oh, it's this, I'll just throw money at it without really doing your own reckoning and work around it. At what point are you going to stop throwing your money thinking that money is the solution? If you're not looking at supporting Black lives as a form of reparations, I don't really know what to tell you. You have to start thinking about reparations for Black liberation teachers. So for you to come on this account and say, go join showing up for racial action or just whatever it's called, you might as well tell me, fuck you, Black lady. I'll sit here and consume your content. I'll take your content to my therapist or to my BIPOC coach, a non-Black person, but I don't want to do this work with you. You're giving me just enough. You're giving me just enough to just scratch the surface. And that's what it feels like. If I could keep it 100 to you, it feels like that. It feels like, F you, Black lady, you've given me enough, and now I'm going to move on. So then I have to really start thinking about like, my own complicity in this, right? I have to think about, when does my pain become a performance? And how am I complicit in allowing you all to see me just as a commodity? Because my culture seems to be a currency, but but we're all of us who are Black are still in debt. Like, you all will take the Black aesthetic, the style, the slang, the music, the GIFs, are they called GIFs? And you will use them without credit or compensation. For example, the woman this morning who was like, I want to take one of your classes. What class should I take so I could teach my members of my community? Why would you tell on yourself? If you're going to do it, like most of y'all just do it anyway. Most of y'all will buy $100 workshop and then have a watch party. I don't ask me how I know, because some of y'all get snitched on. A lot of you all who think you're going behind our back and doing something, someone will actually come back and tell me, I actually saw this at a friend's house. I actually took my friend's login and I logged in to watch the class. So y'all are already doing it. You snitch on yourself and you snitch on each other. And I go, oh, okay. And I go, oh, okay, because I know that the universe always has my back, so I have nothing to worry about. But you're colonial, that's colonialism and imperialism. You all don't care about that. And that's okay. It's okay if you don't care. But I'm here to tell you that I care. So it often feels like on this journey that as a Black woman in being part of Black culture, that Black people are the blueprints, but we're not the beneficiary. We will blueprint some shit and you will take it and go to therapy and work with it with your therapist. You will work with it on everybody else except for the source of the information. And you all are okay with that. And then some of you all take the information and go to therapists who are not decolonized, and you're getting some real strange information. That's all I'm going to say. So then if you're going to take the work, at least do the work with people who are decolonized like you. And then I have to think about social media platforms that will prioritize like shock and awe and polarization. So if I make a piece of content and I'm like, hey y'all, like I'm really experiencing harm, I'm really having a hard time, let's talk about it. You guys forgot about the algorithm. The algorithm does not prioritize calm Black women. The algorithm prioritizes angry Black women. The algorithm prioritizes hot takes. We don't want to talk about that. And one of the conversations I was having on TikTok recently was about how people like to be talked at, but not talked with. And so then you're navigating the algorithm where when you show up in this body, it's this constant talking at people versus talking to people. And the thing about it is that white bodies are so okay with being talked at because of purity culture and Christianity and what it means to be a nice white person. And it's okay for people to just talk at you any kind of way. I've never actually understood that. But that's what the algorithm gives you points for. Like videos of violence and drama between Black people circulate more widely than the positive stories of healing and resistance. So this trains all the audiences on these algorithms to associate Blackness with suffering. Like, think about it. When was the last time you saw a viral trend or meme or wellness post rooted in Blackness, and who profited from it? When was the last time you saw that? When was the last time you logged on social media and you saw something that was really a benefit for Black folks? That was joyous, that talked about the humanity of Black folks, Black people. When was the last time you saw anything like that on your journey? Within the last 48 hours. Unless you're following Black accounts that specialize in holistic wellness or sound therapy or meditation or yoga, you're not going to see it because this algorithm prioritizes Black rage, Black pain, and Black anger. And you can do something about it. I know for me, I have no interest in participating in it anymore. You rarely see it. You rarely see it. And so we have to think about who profits when you see the negativity, who profits from it? It doesn't profit me. It sure doesn't profit you. It's just feeding into your bias. It's only feeding into the biases. So then I have to think about when the world only values your suffering, what happens to my own joy, my own softness, my own peace? The world only values the suffering of the Black body. And so it's almost normalized to see a Black body and be like, oh, they can deal with it. It's okay. Or you don't have to think about it. Because like I always say, whiteness is so invisible. You have to be in conscious awareness to see it. And many of you are not in consciousness. And you're not in consciousness is because you can act out and go back into your addiction to whiteness. Most of you in white bodies are addicts. So you'll step out and go to the addiction of comfort. Oh, that's not comfortable. I'm going to walk away. Oh, I don't have time for that today. I'll go do something else. Isn't that just a privilege? Isn't it a privilege to walk away instead of leaning in when it's hard? And then you take your privilege and you weaponize it as boundaries. Your privilege then turns into weaponized boundaries. Oh, it's my boundaries. I can't do that. Are you sure? How do you know it's your boundaries? Who told you it was your boundaries? And how do you know it's your boundaries? Right? How do you know? Like, I'm curious, real quick. I'm going to pause for a second and ask you all, where have you seen like inclusion become a performance? Because I did ask you about the last time you saw a viral meme rooted in Blackness. Who profits from that? Uh, 100%. It's the hardest thing when calling out my community. Auntie Jess says exactly, and they're not being authentic, so it has no staying power. Ingan says, I tell people all the time that it is a privilege to be able to check out whenever you want. Absolutely. It is a privilege to check out. It is an absolute privilege to check out. And a lot of us don't have that privilege to check out. We just don't. I mean, one of the other things that I think about too is it's the surface level efforts to people be included for optics and not impact. I think a lot of white bodies want the optics but not the impact. Thank you, non. A lot of you want like the this is optical. This feels good. I mean, we saw it with the black squares. There's so much performative outrage, and we still have performative outrage. So, for example, the person that keeps trying to talk to me about Surge, yeah, Surge invites Black folks to the table, but it doesn't redistribute the power of the resources. You could tell me about any nonprofit in the social injustice complex, and I can go point out everything that's wrong with it. Do you know that when these DEI things are mandated, do you know that it benefited white women just like affirmative action? We don't talk about that. We don't talk about who always benefits when they talk about DEI. What was it? 60% of the 60 to sets between 60 and 80% of those DEI roles were given to white bodies. We don't talk about that. We just moral outrage. It's moral outrage. And so, yeah, organizations might invite Black folks. They might cut somebody a check. But what about redistributing power? You all are still running on the myth. It's a myth. You all, I believe it's a myth. It is a myth that some Black folks choose to do this work. And some of y'all keep trying to perpetuate, no, you don't. You can't tell me what I do and what I don't do. You can't tell me what I choose to teach and what I don't choose to teach. And so then I have to remind you, like, I'm not an aesthetic. I'm not a checkbox. Like, I've been reached out to by organizations, and organizations know if it's not authentic, my issue won't do it. I've had all types of organizations reach out to me, and I've just said, no, I don't care how much money it is. No. You just want me to do this for a check? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not an aesthetic. I'm not a checkbox. So they're looking for validation and not liberation. And that's the same question to ask yourself. When I log on to Instagram or TikTok or whatever app it is, when I log on to social media and I'm looking at Black liberation teachers, am I looking for validation, or am I really challenging myself to liberation? Am I looking for Black women to validate me, or I'm really looking for liberation? Why? That's a really good question. Are you looking for validation or liberation? Because if you're looking for liberation, you know liberation is not comfortable. Let's read a couple of comments that are on Instagram. Going to Auntie Jess, 100% vastly more benefits to white women with DEI, and they never got close to getting their race stuff together. Non says, if you know the source, please let me know what you think about. Let me know, but I think the saying is so true. You're not an ally if you censor yourself. I think I said something similar on Reels yesterday on Threads. It's so many apps I can't keep up. If you're censoring yourself, that's not liberation. That's validation. Like the blue bracelets, it was virtual signaling and performance. Here's another situation that was someone else says that. Here's a recent situation. A local bookstore has become my favorite place to go on my decolonization journey. It's been going on for years and years, and I think it will be for my entire life. Absolutely. Thank you for that. There's so much, when we talk about anti-racism spaces or social justice spaces, again, I just want to say this, Black folks aren't a monolith. Somebody might have a different perspective of me, so you just have to figure out what works for you. It's almost like getting a tarot reading. Take whatever works from people's work and figure out the rest. But I really think there's an addiction to performance in these spaces. That's why you guys can see Black labor as a commodity, because you're okay with it. Because you're just performing. You're not in consciousness. One of the things I've been saying for weeks is to get in consciousness. Get in consciousness so that you know what you're doing. You know what you're saying. You're not just jumping on bandwagons. That's the danger of social media. The danger of social media is that you can just be threw something out. A hot take can be thrown out and you run with it and you start. Here's the thing. A Black woman says this. A white woman says, oh my God, I'm such a bad white woman. Let me go flagellate myself. Then you go center yourself. That's the performance. Here's a performance. I get online today and I say, hey, a white woman did this and this. And then you go in the comments and you start centering your experience as a white woman. And you're just like, was this about white women? Or was there a teachable lesson in that I can do for myself? There's this constant need to just perform, to like feed your ego. And like this idea of social media rewarding you for doing the work as a brand instead of responsibility. So a lot of folks will appear to be woke to avoid discomfort and accountability. And I got to be honest, like, I don't care how many workshops you took in 2020. I don't care how many social justice groups you're a part of. It's so much deeper than many of you are doing. Like, like, it's a trend. Like, you guys have treated it like something you can put on. Oh, red lipstick's not in season. Okay, I'm gonna take it off and put on berry. Oh, berry's not in season. Let me take it off and put on mauve. Oh, mauve's not in season. Let me take it off and put on clear lip gloss. That is how you guys treat this journey. It's something that you put on and take off in every season of your life. And here's the thing, I get it. We're all human. We are all human. We all have seasons where we have to know how much we can put in and how much we can take back. Step up and step back. But the problem with the step up and step back is many of you are stepping up, not communicating when you step back, and it feels like a performance. Many of you are actually in spaces where you can say, hey, I'm going to take a break for a few months, but I'll be back. Many of you aren't doing that. You're just opting in and opting out. And that's got to change, because that's how you know you're performing. That's how you know that's how you know you're performing. You know you're performing when you're opting in and opting out, like you're changing your lipstick. And you don't want to lean in. And you really don't want to lean in with Black people, which is why when Black women, Black men, Black non-binary folk, gender expansive people, when we're like, oh yeah, we lead this work, you keep pointing to white resources, then paying Black people for their time and labor. That's the piece of this that I'm not really able to understand, is how you all keep pointing people to white groups, white teachers, white authors, instead of going to the source. And I'm curious, is it because the source doesn't have a degree? Why do you keep pointing people to people? Oh, it's almost like the whole conversation, Kina brings this up a lot. The whole conversation with Kenneth Jones and Tima Akun. And those are the two people, not one, who came up with the aspects and assumptions of white supremacy culture. And that was based on a research group with Black people describing their experience sitting in white culture. And again, guess who gets to get erased out of the research, out of someone who is named? Now, the documents say Tima Akun and Kenneth Jones, but we don't, our critical reading skills have just gone out the window with the increase in social media. So we'll credit the white woman and overlook the Black man. This is what happens in the social justice industrial complex. You all will erase Black folk who are not palatable for you or who make you uncomfortable in this work. So what can you do to not erase Black leaders in this work? Because it's like colonization and imperialism. What can you do to not erase Black leaders in this work? And I'm just going to say it. You run away from Black leaders because it's uncomfortable. You have to face your whiteness, and you rather go perform your activism than do the deep healing community work. Because it's not hard to tell your Black leaders, like, hey, I got to step back for a season. I got a family emergency. The worst thing you're going to hear is, okay, cool. Well, with me, I can't speak for everybody else. You got to step back, take care of your family. But don't completely opt out. Stay engaged some kind of way. But it's like we don't do that in American culture. It's very interesting. Very interesting. I hear Auntie Jess talks about allyship sounds like codependency. Carr says, the deeper I go, the more work I know there is, the more my brain explodes. But the amazing Black couple who own the bookstore, Jess talks about extracting from every Black woman doing this work. Yes. People love pictures of white people buying their books, and I get them to do it for their social media, but you're uncomfortable because you don't want to come off as like it's about me, or the other non-Black people buying books. And now I'm twisting my head thinking about social media. That's a very interesting comment about supporting a Black-owned bookstore. I think as a white person, it's your job to talk about the Black leaders that you follow and why it's important to support Black businesses. I think that's centering the Black business. Now, here's an example. If you're like, I got Heal Your Way Forward from Doc Urock's bookstore, and as a white woman on an anti-racism journey, it's important for me to support Black bookstores. Don't say that. You could say, I got Heal Your Way For from Doc Rock's bookstore. And Doc Rock is a blah, blah, blah psychologist whose bookstore exists to rise up Black leaders. And it's important to trust Black leaders and Black authors because as white folks, we have a responsibility to learn true liberation from Black people. Do you get what I'm saying? Like when you're talking about the work of Black folk as a white person, you have to learn how to not center yourself in the story. So if you see yourself, this is all white women, this is your cue. When you start to say, as a white person, you are already centering yourself. I just gave you some gems. This is how you know. As a white person on an anti-racism journey, as a such and such person on a liberation, like you're already centering yourself because you're saying, as a blank person on a blank journey. Don't say that anymore. You have to learn how to say, it is important to learn from teachers because legacy of give the history. Don't give your personal story. Now, if you're chilling with your girlfriends and you're like, oh, I got Heal Your Way For by Maisha T. Hill, right? Then you're like, well, for me, this book means this, and let's read it together and go get you a copy. There's a time and place when to share your lived experience and a time and place when you can't. And you know you're performing your activism when you're in front of a large group of people and you're on social media and you're centering yourself in the story. I'm going to go down some more. Thank you so much for explaining the difference between genuine and performative kindness. Notes to keep in mind. You're welcome, Anthony. I hope it was helpful. Jess, I believe you were saying that sometimes people ask for my credentials and Jess loses it because my wisdom, knowledge, expertise, and lived experience are enough. How do we do this without putting more emotional labor on Black people? We're doing the work. You have to pay us. Like, you have to look at it as like, let's say you saw a coach on social media and you wanted her to be your coach. You're not going to question the coach. Am I putting more labor on you? Especially if the coach is like, this is my work. This is my job. This is what I do for a living. I think you have to start looking for Black people who are actually saying, I teach white people like myself, Keena Reed, Desiree B. Stevens, Ashani, Yolanda with Decolonized Parenting. I got a whole list of Black women and men, Tommy Allgood. There's just a whole bunch of us that are like, we do this work with white bodies. And when you have Black folks saying, we do this work, we already know the emotional labor. And I'm starting to think like this idea of, oh, we don't want to put the emotional labor. Oh, we don't want to be uncomfortable. Oh, we don't want to invest our time. That's why certain keywords, Nan, are starting to kind of be a myth. And I'm here to demystify it. Because if I didn't do the work with white people in community, I wouldn't be on these platforms. And so then you have, and here's where it comes, where you have non-Black and Indigenous people, AKA the folks you love to call BIPOC, saying, don't put labor on Black leaders so you can put money in their pocket. Somebody had to say it, so I just said it. You all will say, oh, I don't want to put the emotional labor on Black people. We're telling you that this is our work. We are explicitly saying this is the work we want to do, but you don't want to put this is the work that we do. That's like telling a foreman of a construction company, I want to work with your company, but you're Black owned. That's it. I want to work with your company, but you're Black owned and I don't want to put the labor on you. I'm a foreman. That's my job. You pay me for this. But if it's Black folks who don't do this work, who don't want to lead this work, then that's a different conversation. We understand the labor, which is why we do it. Does that make sense? I hope that was helpful, Nan. And Doc says here, they don't want to pay me either. They sure do want my labor, though, and pat me on the head when I provide it without demands. Once I set a boundary, it was a problem. From pet to threat, real quick. That's deep. That's deep. People want what we have to say, but you just don't want to pay us. And that's why I'm losing friends. I'm losing community members because you all aren't used to seeing me on this platform saying pay me. But when you have other folk out here being narcissists and being abusive, y'all paying them. Y'all paying the white woman that go and copies my platform and creates her own thing. You paying her, but you won't pay the source. So this tells me, degree or no degree, the value of the Black body, it's just all commodity. It's all commodified. It's yes. This is going to be this live for those of you asking. This live is going to be here on the platform. It's going to be on our Check Your Privilege YouTube, not the Maisha T. Hill YouTube. I do on my website. I didn't say From Pet to Threat. That was Dr. Yolinda Renee Rahman. You can get a copy of her book, Therapeutic BDSM. Doc has great books. Gonna read a couple more comments, and then I have a couple more things. I do have some signed copies of Heal Your Way Forward at home. They're not on this account yet, but I'll get that link up. Jen Gergen says, good to see you, Jen. Yes, what started as an intent not to cause harm has resulted in a separation tactic. Jen Gergen is here, you all. Everybody say hi to Jen. We got Jen, we got Jess, we got Team CYP on the chat. Shout out to Team CYP, always showing up, helping hold the container in the space. Because I got more to say and I'm a little tired, but I said I would go live for as long as I could go because I ain't been live for a minute. Jen, that is so dope. It started out as intent not to cause harm, but now it is a separation tactic. Absolutely agree. It is a separation tactic to not lean into the work and pay folk who are leaders and teachers of this movement and of this work. So good. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Let's go back. Let's go back. All right. And there's a couple more. Thank you. This makes sense. They're already doing the work. Send people the way. Absolutely. Not paying Black folks and saying emotional labor. Yes, Jess, it's a way to create distance. I think that's a line in Heal Your Way Forward about the distancing yourself from Blackness. Right? I just have been on the end of having to lead and work Asian ERG groups but not getting paid for it. Same for Black friends. If your job, listen, if you are a Black, Indigenous, Southeast Asian, and your job is like, we want you to lead an ERG group, say no. That's not your job. You are not being compensated. They need to hire Black and Indigenous and South Asian folks outside of the job to bring that work in. Because what happens is if it's within work, there's confines that you have to try to fit in to not be at risk of losing your job. Oh, Doc says that's not her saying, which is why it's in quotes. I didn't see the quotes. That is not Doc saying. They saw it on LinkedIn. Yes, intent does not negate impact and rooted in conflict avoidance big time. Yes, I actually think not working with Black people is a confidence avoidance issue. I honestly say that. It's the conflict of not naming your relationship with anti-Blackness or pro-Black solidarity. It's easy to not want to engage in this work and not think about your relationship with anti-Blackness because you don't have to take you can avoid responsibility of naming your relationship to anti-Blackness. And that's what a lot of folks do. You don't want the responsibility, so you'll run. You don't want the responsibility, so you'll run. And it's easier to run away than to stay engaged in the work. All right. And then I want to talk real quickly about reparations and mutual aid, because it's really important. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable when I'm on this platform and I talk about reparations and mutual aid. I mean, we don't know how to take care of each other. And the black folks in America, we've never seen reparations. And reparations will be a process of historical apology or redress for historical and systemic harm tied to the legacy of enslavement, segregation, and racial discrimination. It implies that we owe you a debt. And then mutual aid is a collective community-based response where people support each other, meeting basic needs, community needs. It's voluntary, it's relationship-driven, and it's immediate. It's like no questions asked. These are two things that we don't practice here in America. That's why whenever you go, I think it's on all of our courses now that we talk about the importance of supporting our workshops and classes because it's a form of reparations. We've never been given reparations as Black people. And reparations are not charity, it's justice. And mutual aid is how many of us Black folks have survived while we wait on the system to catch up. It's how it's part of survival. It's how we survive. And I don't know if anybody ever thinks about the survival of Black people in this country. I really don't. I don't think we do. I wish we did, but we don't. At what point will we do that? It is my birthday week, Jen, and I'm so glad you brought that up. It is my birthday week, and this is just the work. We knew that. It was too calm, Jen. It's been too calm. We should have known something was going to come. And if I don't speak up for myself as a Black woman in America, who's going to speak up for me? I mean, I know you would, and I know Jess would, and like I know, like not literally, but just figuratively. Like, who's going to speak up for me? The only time that um people speak up for me is when it benefits them. If it doesn't benefit, then yeah, no one speaks up for me. You know what I mean? Sorry about that. I am sending myself a message. Who speaks up for me? I know my friends will speak up for me. I know how members of the collective would speak up for me. But who else? Who else speaks up for Black women? You know what I mean? Who? Most of you speak up for us when we're dead. We get murdered by the hands of Black genocide in America. It's hard to say that, and it might be hard to hear because many of you don't want to talk about this real, visceral life of what it means to be Black in America. Wasn't it Zora Neale Hurston who said that if I'm silent about my pain, they will kill me and say I enjoy it? So if I'm silent against anti-Blackness, if I'm silent against racism, it's silently killing me and I don't enjoy it. If I'm silent about anti-Blackness, if I'm silent about pro-Black solidarity, it will kill me. And many of you do not want to talk about your complicity with anti-Blackness because it does not center you or your experience. And we live in a country where everybody wants to be seen and heard. So it's easier to center yourself than it is to center other members of the collective. It's easy to traumatize your pain, to use your pain as a weapon, to use your whiteness as a weapon, than it is to lay down your power and center voices that are not yours. The reason why you go to BIPOC and not just say Black, Indigenous bodies of culture or Black and Indigenous, Southeast Asian, Asian American, Pacific Islander, non-binary, trans people of the global majority, that just comes off my tongue because I know we all matter and we all want to be identified as our culture. But you go to BIPOC because it's easier, because you can lump us up in a category and not have to really name your relationship to those cultures and the violence that the white bodies have against those cultures. Yoga is violent. Can we talk about how yoga is violent? Yoga is violent against people from Southeast Asia. The way we have went and made it a commodity here in the Americas. Reiki is violent. The way we've taken the Japanese practice and monetized it to where you're paying for a certificate. Do you know Dr. Asui did not want people to pay for Reiki, that it was a gift? When you start learning the history of Reiki, you'll be like, damn, we commodify and capitalize on everything out here. We do. Guys, the spiritual teachings and spiritual gifts. You get what I'm saying? And so when I talk about reparations, I talk about my work as a work of reparations. So instead of you saying, I don't want to put the emotional labor on Black folks, maybe you should try saying, maybe this is a work of reparations. Maybe working with Black folks is a work of reparations. Maybe seeing Black people declare their value online, say they want to help other Black folks, maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe seeing a Black woman say, pay me for my time, and saying it every day. Why does that make me uncomfortable? Is it because I feel scarcity in my life as a white woman? Find your own power. That has nothing to do with me. Black women are allowed to say, hey, we need support. Hey, we need help. We don't want to just be commodified. You can see working with Black folks as a form of reparations and mutual aid. So that helps you think, am I giving from guilt or am I redistributing from a sense of responsibility or equity? Let me put this on the screen for you all. This is a question to ask yourself. When you think about giving your money, especially in terms of supporting Black and Brown creators, Black and Indigenous creators, ask yourself, am I doing this from guilt or am I redistributing from a sense of responsibility and equity? Why am I doing this? Is it guilt or is it responsibility and equity? Because if it's guilt, then you're only giving because you feel guilty. But if you can see it as mutual aid and reparations, that's different. Because redistribution, responsibility, and equity is a spiritual, emotional, and political act. It is deeper than what you think. It encourages you to leverage your unearned access and your wealth. When you invest in Black people, you are participating in collective liberation. And redistribution is not about losing, it's about realigning. So how do I do this and I make sure that I'm not being codependent and overgiving of my time? Well, you should have a budget. All of us at a certain age should have a budget. And on your budget line item, you should have a monthly mutual aid budget or reparations budget. Maybe instead of paying Netflix $17 a month, $20 a month, you can send 5 people $5 a month. It might not be a lot, but it's a little bit. What subscription can you get rid of to support Black liberation teachers? Can you get rid of Netflix? Can you get rid of Hulu? Hulu's like $80. 2, 4, 6. That's 4 people, $20 a month. Because a lot of us have these subscriptions that we don't need. I would rather take my subscription money and invest in Black liberation teachers than just pay for some TV when I can be doing other things with my time. I could be creating. I can be hiking. I can be making bracelets. I do make bracelets. But these are things that we don't think about. We don't think about a budget for reparations and mutual aid. We're just like, I'm only going to give to nonprofits. Well, here's some suggestions. Give to Black-led organizations once a month. Give to Black educators, creators, and organizers without asking for anything in return. That's why I have I think I have one separate fundraiser that's separate from Check Your Privilege. And it is just give just because. You don't expect anything from me. You just give because you believe in the work that I'm doing in the world. And like then with that money, I can pay for $1,000 like appointments for my special needs children that I don't talk about on this platform anymore. When people give, it allows me to get the support that my kids need. That's why this is important. When you have to pay for evaluations that cost $500 to $800 per person, that's also how you know America's a scam. I got to pay you $500 for a test. This stuff is so much deeper than what we're thinking about. So if I were to end this live stream today, in the spirit of I'm tired and I'm about to log out, I would leave with this question. I don't know if it's looking. What's one way you can engage in reparative action this week? I'm going to edit this because I want to be very specific about Black people. What ways can you engage in reparative action this week for Black people with your time, money, or your platform? So instead of expecting Black folks to show up for sale as a commodity, ask yourself, write this down. What way Can I engage in reparative action this week for Black people with your time, money, or platform? Time is part of it. Absolutely. Time is a big part of it. How is time a part of it? What are you good at? Maybe some, I have a couple folks, someone helps me book me on podcasts. They volunteer booking me on podcasts. Someone else volunteers and teaches classes sometimes. So I don't have to do all the labor. Some people curate our library online resource section for our paid membership. Some people do work in exchange for their paid membership. People look at the number of members and they forget that we have members that don't pay anything. Numbers really mess a lot of people up, and we don't talk about that. So there's one more question for you to reflect on here in the chat. And then also, if you enjoyed this live, if you put this link, there is a workbook you can download to use with this, and you can actually work yourself through these prompts. There's several prompts. When I say several prompts, there's several prompts. I wonder if I can pull it up. If you felt something from this live today, there's an actual workbook that you can reflect with. I'll show you a couple of them real quick. Because it's one thing to come on and teach, but y'all love resources and y'all love reflection questions. Well, there's a $10 workbook to go with this live. Again, I gave you a few reflection questions during this live, so please hold on to them. Let me see. I don't want to upload the file. I just want to share my screen so y'all can see it. Share screen, window. So this is just once it's beginning with the truth. I think this is showing up on my screen. It's asking you like what emotions come up for you when you think of Black bodies being treated as property. In what ways does the legacy of chattel slavery still show up? And where do I see Black culture consumed and not credited? That's one page of 12. These are the ways that we think about Black bodies being viewed as a commodity and your relationship to it. This is what I do. I go live. I give you a resource to download. Here are three more questions to start with. You might have to come back and watch the replay, freeze it, and go journal about it and come back. Because that's what we do here now. We are no longer just educating for the sake of giving you a hot take. Because anybody can, yes, the link is in our bio. Thank you. We are no longer giving you hot takes just to walk away from the live like, oh, that was nice. We are no longer giving hot takes. We're going to give you something and then something to go download and purchase and work through. And then you can take that workbook and take Liberation Foundations, or you can join our community and bring up the questions that you'll have when you work with them. Because again, the work is individual and collective. So I'm going to look at a couple of more comments on Instagram. I'll do my best to try and that's the link for the workbook. It's also on the Instagram bio. I'm going to do my best to kind of paste them on the screen, trying to be accessible as much as possible. Nan talks about silence being, silence is complicity. I'll just pin it because it's not working. Give me a second. I think it might work. Yeah, here it comes. On Instagram, silence is complicity. It is violence. It doesn't actively cause harm, but it moves the needle toward for others to perpetuate harm. Absolutely. And Jess says that it's painful to accept our complicity, but it's necessary to move beyond that. It is. A lot of you struggle with naming your complicity, but you have to face things to feel things so you can move forward. You have to face things and face them, feel them so you can do something about it. Right? Face them, feel them so you can do something about it. It's painful, but that's part of the work. It's going to be uncomfortable. Someone says that Danielle says that I had a white therapist who loves the holistic health modalities from the global south. Yikes. Yikes. Jess talks about their experience working with a therapist because there's no room for that. We have another comment. Let me remove. It's not shared on the screen. It's on Instagram pin. Still censoring self is guilt. Absolutely. Anthony just commented on a wise and good question to keep in mind to ask yourselves about the journey. Absolutely. Most people, this is great. Most people do value TV more than they do Black Lives. You will give a subscription to Hulu, Netflix, but that same subscription can be given to a Black creator. We're centering Blackness here. And if Jess says if we each gave what we could without stretching our budgets, we could really support educators and thought leaders like Maisha. Right. So this is not just the Maisha T. Hill show. This is all Black leaders in this space. It breaks my heart to see all of us who are still engaging this work not being seen. Right? Not being seen, not being valued, not being appreciated. And here's a couple more that I want to share here. I'll put these on the screen. It's pinned in Instagram. It says only giving to nonprofits is still thinking about yourself because you're looking for a tax break. Giving to mutual aid and teachers, true ways of redistribution and community building. Absolutely. I do. Do y'all know that these tax write-offs aren't what they used to be? Like you really don't. You really don't get the benefits that you think you do. Unless you're a philanthropist and you're watching this live and you got money like that, you might be getting something back. But the majority of everyday people, you do not get back what you think you're getting. You don't. You don't. A couple shares of mine. Give me 1 second. Someone asked for my support campaigns that aren't Check Your Privilege related. See if I can get my Venmo and my Gumroad here. So if you go to maishathill.com/Gumroad or maishathill.gumroad.com or Venmo, you can become a monthly subscriber. I do give a lot. It's my heart. It's so full of things. Or you can just shoot a Venmo. To be more like what's helpful is a monthly subscription. I have one, I believe all of the Black teachers have one. Most of the ones I know for sure. Because we're tired. You know what I'm saying? Another way that you can be supportive of Black teachers, maybe you don't have the capacity. I've seen Jen, Jess, I've seen so many of you on this account. Like, I think you think we look at profiles sometimes before we comment back. And I've seen some of you've had links to Check Your Privilege, links to divesting from whiteness. I've seen you all take the links in your bio and get really, really creative. And that's really another way to support Black liberation teachers is switch them out every couple of weeks. Switch them out every couple of months, right? Switch things out, right? Maybe you support Check Your Privilege for a week, and then you support Divesting Whiteness for a week, and then you support Desiree B. Stevens for a week. There's so many ways that you can support multiple people. That's 365. There's 365 days a year. If you swapped out the link in your bio every day, you've supported 365 Black liberation teachers. I forgot how many weeks it is in a year. I can't do the math right now. But even if you did like swap out links in your bio, even if you like sent your family, hey, I'm learning from this lady, let's do it together. Instead of you trying to make your family take this journey with you, like stop doing that. Right? And if you're struggling financially, like thank you. It's 52 weeks in a year. That's 52 Black liberation teachers you can support just by changing the link every week. And maybe you're struggling financially and you can't support more. I just want to always remind you, you can't give what you don't have. You're not obligated to give, but it's very important that if you do, you shall. You shall. It's not always about money, but little things like the link in your bio, little things about maybe you have a Substack. Talk about Black liberation teachers on Substack. Maybe you create a Substack just to talk about Black liberation teachers. There's a very specific reason why I'm only talking about Black folks right now. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and that's okay. But it's time now. It's time that we stop pretending that like, it's just time. And it's okay if you're uncomfortable. Discomfort means that you're growing. Yep. Jess says that she gives me her time and skills, and sharing is a great way to support. There are options for people who aren't resourced. There are so many options But that's how I know that we're not even in possibility a lot of times. We struggle to be in hope and possibility. We really struggle to be in hope and possibility. And it's hard to be in hope and possibility when you see what's going on with this country. And I get that too. All right. Well, I'm going to go. It's my birthday week. I'm going to go take a nap, lay down, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week. And until I see y'all again, please keep living into your work, heal your way forward, check your privilege, and all of those things. Peace.